Hi, and welcome back to Discerning Seniors Connector, a meeting place where we highlight the issues and services relevant to today's senior. My name is Lori Germain, and I'm the co-founder and president of Discerning Seniors, and in a minute you'll meet my partner and vice president, Lee Merlo. Our Rent-A-Daughter concierge service helps seniors and their families find the best solution to the challenges that can come from aging. Anything from finding the best caregiver or retirement home, all the way to helping you navigate through the reality of social media. If you need it, if you want it, we can help you find it. We started this video connector series in order to highlight the wisdom and experience of our amazing clients, as well as to showcase the terrific people behind the companies we use to help provide our clients with the best solutions possible. I hope you enjoy. We had a great conversation with Laura Ross from Estate Consulting, didn't we, Lee?
We did. And every time we talk to Laura, I learn something new that I can use in my own life. And also I know that our clients will find this incredibly valuable. So I'm really excited about this chat. We often, you and I know the importance of planning. We often encourage our customers and our clients to talk about things and, if they're not in the best health, how do we handle it, et cetera. But most of us avoid the elephant in the room, which is, well, what happens when we pass? And we always feel funny having these conversations with our children and our adult children and even our spouses. But it's so, so, so important. And so many Canadians are not taking the time to actually plan their estates. So planning. We plan for weddings. We plan for the birth of our children. We plan for, the next week's groceries because we don't know when we get to go to the store again. But we're not taking enough time to just take the steps, have the conversations, and plan. And this is where Laura comes in, because she can help you navigate those difficult conversations with your children, or maybe they're not difficult conversations, but she can be there to guide you through the processes of how do I establish my wishes, and how do I get those wishes across, and what is it that I want. And I think what people really underestimate, and Laura highlights this a lot, is the peace of mind it gives your family when you have it all laid out. Even whether you agree with it or not, you know that that's what mom and dad or mom wanted. And it just takes all the tension out of this very sad, difficult time for families. So we like to tell our clients, and Laura says it too, think of it as your final gift to your family. Just pieces.
So let's take a listen to what she had to say. Okay, so thank you for joining us today, Laura. Why don't we start by having you tell us a little bit more about how your company can help people through this challenging time?
Sure. So what I help people with is around their overall estate. And, one of the things that I really think is a huge priority for families is that they leave their family in good standing after they pass away, so that they haven't added to any family conflict as a result of them dying. So oftentimes people think that that's around finances, but often it's around other things as well. And I think particularly during this time with COVID and the pandemic, that it's really coming to light that people have not had the difficult discussion with their family members around their end of life wishes and their do not resuscitate and their power of attorney for health. And as we've heard so many stories, people have been put in very difficult situations trying to determine whether their family member really wanted to be ventilated. So the area that I really help people with, it's kind of three areas. One is the health directives, which again has become very evident now is a huge need, and having those difficult conversations with your family, but as well as your financial wishes. What is it that you own, and how do you plan to divert that money to your loved ones, to charities, again, such that your family does not fight over it. And then really your overall estate goals, including who is your executor, who is going to get your stuff, the painting from your grandmother and things like that, your funeral wishes, so that again, your family doesn't fight as a result of you passing away.
Right.
So
how do you work with clients? You sit down with them and you help them work through their letter of wishes, and then do you help them communicate with their family members?
Yes, I do. It really depends on what their needs are, but often I will meet with them and kind of go through those three areas. So their health directives, their financial wishes, and their overall estate goals, and then make a plan to communicate with their children and their loved ones around what their wishes are, and not just communicate it, but document it, so that in a time of crisis, people can go to the document and say, oh, we did talk about this. This is what the wishes were, so that your powers of attorney and your executors are simply executing your wishes. They're not having to make any decisions.
They're not guessing. This is what she might have wanted, or this. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
That's great.
What I do, it really depends. Every family, as you know, is so different. And some families are very comfortable having that conversation with their children oftentimes. And as you mentioned, kids want to know this information about their parents. It's not, they feel greedy asking for those issues as well. So if there's concern that there is going to be a difficult conversation to happen, like having to sell the family cottage, or that the parent wants to enact MAID or things like that, oftentimes I will be brought in to be the mediator, because I'm an independent third party and I have no vested interest in anything. So sometimes I do facilitate that as well. Well, and there's so much, there's so many other things that come in. Even if your kids get along extremely well, all of a sudden you throw in spouses who have no relationship with, not to mention their brother and sister-in-law, but then their spouse. Plus,
their kids.
Different families come in with different financial means, different usages of the property, different parenting styles. There's so many things that can, again, result in conflict. And, again, parents think that by leaving their kids the cottage, it's a huge gift for them, but I've rarely seen it work.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
So, anyway.
Yeah, I know. And as siblings, I mean, I have a good relationship with my siblings. We think we would all make the right decision, but everybody wants different things at the end of the day. Yeah. I know. So, and then I'll ask you this, how do you, I mean, a lot of people have prepared and they've gone to their estate lawyers and trustees. How do you work with those professionals on behalf of clients?
So oftentimes I find that people do have a will, but oftentimes it's quite old. And they've potentially gone to a lawyer, but not necessarily an estate lawyer. So the lawyer they've used maybe is a general lawyer and is not up to date with estate issues. So the way that I work with clients is I actually help them through the discussion determine what are the things they need to go to their lawyer with, or just adjust. The same with their financial advisor.
Okay.
Making sure that their RIF account, for example, is named to beneficiaries rather than the estate, to avoid probate on that particular account. So having an agenda to go to your lawyer with, to say, these are the things we want done, so that you're not wasting time deciding, having the lawyer lead the discussion. You are then leading the discussion. You're going in with specific points about, this is what we need to change in our will, and you're minimizing the cost with the lawyer. Well, and I think too, people spend months and years sometimes planning for weddings and special events, but very few people end up planning for their own demise because it's an uncomfortable situation. But if you don't give your family and your trustees and your executor the information with which to manage your estate, you're just putting a huge burden on them.
If people think if we don't talk about it, it's not going to happen. And even in my, I'll often talk about my demise, and my husband gets all like, well, you shouldn't talk about it, but it's going to happen. Like, it's not like something that's not going to happen. So let's talk about it.
And it's not going to happen faster because you're talking about it, right?
Wow. But it also, having Laura, who's had the benefit of all this experience, kind of ask those questions like, well, what about, and have you thought about, that just is tremendously valuable in just all of the assets that people have to dispose of. And having to dispose of your parents' assets as you're grieving is not an easy thing. So how else do you help families? You also do a lot of the stuff that they need to get done, right?
So when I'm working with families, I typically will kind of get a summary of where all their stuff is. Do they have a property in Florida? Do they have a cottage? How many bank accounts do they have? How many visas? How many investment providers do they have? And I try and get them to consolidate as much as possible, so that the estate is, as clean and clear as possible, and that everybody knows where everything is. So I also work with them to get what I call a ducks in a row binder together, which is basically everything that you would need to run as an executor. Everything is in one place, and your executor knows where it is.
That's a great idea.
And then I often will work with the executor as an executor advisor and do all the estate administration to help the executor out, because it's an onerous task that's there's a lot of busy work and but for the most part, an estate lawyer is not required to do most of this work. It's
What's the best way for people to find you?
So probably the best way to find me is I do a lot of speaking engagements, usually with investment firms, and oftentimes I have a lot of women clients and speak at women's events together. So through speaking arrangements, my website, and I also do a lot of work with financial advisors who recommend that I come in and speak with their clients, because from the financial advisor perspective, they want to make sure that their client has all their ducks in a row so that the financial advisor is not the one ending up trying to help them. One is, to me, having a well-structured estate is the best gift you can give your family.
There's no shame in any of this. This is all just facts of life stuff, because more of us are headed that way, in bulk. So, let's take away this taboo conversation and lean into it, and deal with it head on. So, and
great.
Your service is a huge part of that. So
huge.
Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Laura.
Yes.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Well,